When designing a proof, there are certain good habits to follow and certain bad habits to avoid. Here's a list of good things to have in your proof. Typically speaking, when I'm going to be writing proofs, I'm going to copy the statement of the theorem to be proven on the paper. Then I'm going to usually rewrite it formally with for alls and existentials and symbols. Then I'm going to mark the beginning of the proof by writing the word proof. And typically speaking, every step along the way, I'm going to justify using a theorem or a definition, and I'm going to refer to that theorem or definition or tell you the name of the property that I'm going to be using. Also, it's always a good idea to keep the readers informed about the status of your proof. So tell them what you already know, what you're trying to prove, write little comments to tell the reader where you're at in the proof. Are you done? Are you almost done? Are you barely starting? Things like therefore, then, it follows. Those kinds of words help the reader understand what you're doing. And obviously, you want to display the equations and inequalities of the proof. Common mistakes. There are certain mistakes and certain bad habits that we want to avoid when we're writing a proof. For example, if you're proving a universal statement, you cannot argue from an example. You cannot say that a universal statement is true just because you found one example that makes it true. There are plenty of universal statements that are false, but they work in one instant. Also, we don't want to use the same variable to mean different things in the proof. So if you used x at the beginning of the proof to be an even number, you don't want to use x later on in the proof to be an odd number. That would be confusing. Choose a different variable. There are times when we get stuck in a proof, and typically I see students getting stuck and they just assume that the conclusion is true. They jump to the conclusion. This is where they make a critical jump in the proof, but they cannot justify it. That's because they're getting desperate or they just want to move on already. So they just say, okay, well, what I'm trying to prove is now true without any justifications. That's definitely a big no-no. And finally, there are times when the proofs are confusing and it is very difficult to tell what we know and what we don't know in the proof. So it's always a good idea to keep things organized. Keep writing statements saying, here's what I know so far and here's what is still missing and what I still have to prove.